I've started recording, and then I can now make you the host again. That was a smart one. It's now recording.
You need to get very focused. You've got 6 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Let's chatter. Get in the zone. You need to be reviewing your notes now. Stop the instructions if you can.
Yeah.
Right. That phone surely is not going to sit there and ring in the middle of your thing. Turn it off. Turn it off. Unless you need it for part of this thing. Block your calls.
All phones on silent, please. By the way, Ciku, on our dogs are watching.
Okay.
That's my piece of paper, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's supposed
Right,
to
I
be.
don't want that there. So I want to take photos. It looks like really clean. You know, not messy at all. It's all theatre, man. You got to get the right angle. It's like you'll see this whole thing.
Let them line up.
Have you got the WhatsApp numbers of all these people?
Yeah.
You should be firing out a message to them. Should have gone 10 minutes ago. Starting in 10 minutes. Come on, get on the line. Can you do it? Should have gone out 10 minutes ago. You've got to work your audience, Ciku. Okay? You've got 4 minutes. Fire it out. Get online right now. Send them a link.
Okay.
Good luck.
Who is trying to come in? Benson. If Priscilla tries to come in, let her in first.
Yeah. 3 minutes. Everybody ready? That's a great shot. Look at that. What am I doing? I'm practicing where I'm going to shoot from so that I get the best right. It's all about maximization. Obsession. You've got to be obsessed with wanting to get it right. So what happens if I shoot down on that? It doesn't look good. If I come down here, it looks really intimate, like we're part of that. We're part of the team now. Just get it right, man. You've got to do one from back here. Oh, look at that. I'll take a little one of the audience.
Yeah, my audience.
Should we do one of the audience?
Yeah.
And then you can post that and write watching Ciku live, watching Ciku right later.
Audience.
We have an excited audience.
Oh, it's blurred.
You need to push for the camera.
So I'm going to flash this one. Not working.
Where's the flash?
I see it.
We have 3 people, right? When? Benson, Julius, and so watch our chill. Because I can't, if Priscilla has not joined, we cannot. No, you get, huh? Priscilla has to join first. Okay, text.
Mimi.
Is Priscilla the person who's doing
Priscilla.
Is Priscilla the person who, like, the special person?
Yeah.
Yes. The guest of honor.
Yes.
So you can't start it without her.
Exactly the point. You can't say
Because you
about
can't
her.
let people come in when the guest of honor isn't there yet. So you have to let the guest of honor join first, and then the other.
Then now we can let other people to come in. Or we can let other people come in and let the guest of honor come last. What do you think?
And you invite them.
No.
But utakuwa tensed, waiting
Why?
for the guest.
I don't know.
Yeah, wait for a minute.
I think the guest of honor should be first.
Okay,
Or
we can
second.
ask for Daddy's
Okay,
opinion.
enough talking. Stop talking. Stop talking. It's over. It's time to start. Are we going for time? It's 8 o'clock. Where are we?
Just a question.
Pardon? That doesn't go.
Let me just put it off. Should we first let in the people, or should we first let in Priscilla, the guest?
Can we get moving, please?
We're asking
Just start the thing. It's 8 o'clock. Just start.
Priscilla.
Don't get in your head. Should we do this? It's 8 o'clock. I think it's time to start. What time did this 8 o'clock webinar start?
We're waiting for the guest.
Well, you gave an instruction to open that at 10 to 8. But we didn't. You're waiting for your guest.
Yeah,
Are you letting people in?
that's what we're asking you. Should we let the people in?
Gosh. Where's the guest? Have you texted?
My phone is off.
You're disappointed. But all in all, good job. I'm proud of you. *255# and Maria ahead of everybody else. Good evening. Your
Good evening. Thank you so much for your patience. Welcome to Unbounded Greatness, where we bring you ordinary people who have done extraordinary things to make our society a better place. And we bring you mentors who you can learn from in your journey of personal development, career development, business development, and money. So today, as we discuss the topic Against All Odds, we bring to you Honorable Priscilla Nyokabi, who is an advocate of the High Court and a commissioner in the National Gender and Equality Commission. She's also been recognized as top 40 under 40 women who are doing exceedingly well in their careers. And she's the first ever women representative of Nyeri County. Welcome, Honorable Nyokabi.
Thank you very much, and happy to be here and happy to engage.
It's
I
wonderful.
have since passed 40. It's okay, I'm not very far from 40.
It's okay, it's wonderful to have you here. You're looking so good. So we can go down to where you all started in the University of Nairobi. Could you give us your journey, how it was in the University of Nairobi as a student there?
Very, very much. Well, I think it started a little bit earlier in high school, and I went to Loreto Kiambu High School in Kiambu County, which was a bit of an interesting scenario because I'd come from Nyeri. So I came from Nyeri, but came over to study in Kiambu. So they were always laughing at my Kikuyu, Kinyeri, and all that. But then my high school teacher, who we had nicknamed Joga, because she used to jog around the school chasing the girls. So Joga realized that I was a bit of a bright student who wasn't paying too much attention. And she started to speak to me about professional degrees in the university and getting really, really high grades for the university. Our class teacher then was nicknamed Shaggy. He never used to chanua his ndevus, so I can nickname you a Shaggy for not chanuaring the ndevus. Shaggy was our accounts teacher and also started to talk to me about the university and about professional courses in the university. And so I aimed then very, very high and got an A- in the KCSE at that time. And so when I got the A-, at that time, our science teachers were women. So we had among the early science teachers who were women. And I had really admired the science teachers, and I had thought that I would then be a science teacher. So one of my first degree choices was B.Ed Science, the University of Nairobi. But then in our year, because I did 96, 97, the the Joint Admissions Board started to allow students to change their career choices and their degree choices. And so when I got the A-, I then went to change. And I had a cousin of mine who ran me through career choices, and we settled on law. And he really thought that law was a good idea. And so I picked law. For me, I was thinking pharmacy. Medicine, I had disqualified because I couldn't stand blood. But pharmacy, I had thought this one is not very bloody, maybe is a good choice. And so I had thought I would pick pharmacy, but my cousin was really good at pointing me out to law. And so I picked law as my first choice at the University of Nairobi and got to law. But just before that year also, I did elections. 97 was an election year. So I went down to Nyeri, we're from Udaya, Karema, to do the registration of voters. I was a registration clerk at Karema Primary School. And I was a polling clerk at the Udaya ECK office. And that was the first time I saw Mwai Kibaki, President Mwai Kibaki, who was then the member of parliament for Udaya. So I joined university in 98. And actually that polling clerk is also where I met my husband, Fantas Mushiri Geiro, down in Udaya. Yeah. By the time I went to the university, I had a boyfriend and I had now the law career to pursue. And I really did look forward to studying the law, and I had seen a bit of politics by being an elections clerk. Thank you. Oh, but you asked me about the university. The university, nothing, I mean, just nothing out of ordinary. We have the fresher year where we meet. We've been just heard about Professor Kenouko, or Dr. Kenouko, who just recently passed away, was one of the lecturers who took us through sociology because we had to do the common courses. And we had really, really good professors. Professor Jackson Ojuang, former Supreme Court judge, who was our dean and was also our lecturer in social foundations of law. So I mean, we were just happy to meet these people from Alliance. Me, I was from a bit of a shag school. Happy to meet all these Pangani girls, all these Kenya High, all these Limuru girls. Kwanza the Busharians in the university are allowed, you know, they are the only ones who went to the university and nobody else went to high school. So that sort of thing. But the course was really good. You had to really read hard. So we had the choppers. The university library has like the guys who chop very, very hard. Mpaka unakuwa na desk, librarian hata anakuwekea kitabu, zingine hata anakuuzia, because the books are very scarce. I had learned how to use the Africana at the main library, the Jomo Kenyatta Library at the University of Nairobi, the Africana section. So yeah, I just ended up studying very, very hard for my exams at the time in the university. Thank you.
That is quite interesting. Your story is very interesting, Honorable Nyokabi. And you're also a student mother in the university. So how was that for you?
Well, that wasn't easy. I think the only thing is to say that the student father was also around. So it was a student mother and a student father.
Oh, nice.
And yes, sure. So the first year I struggled quite a lot and didn't get good grades. In fact, I remember one paper I had failed so much, and the baby was underweight. You know, it was just a lot of problems. The baby would cry and I would cry, because I was, I think, 20 years old, and the house girl would cry and my sister would cry. So just the whole house is just crying and crying. So my mother came one time and thought, why don't you just take the baby home? That this is really not working. We were living in Maringo Estate, Uko Marish, we call the estate Marish. That's how Uko Marish, well, I could manage because Marish luckily is a city council house, so the rent is not very much. My father would send me some money to pay the rent, and the student father would bring his loan, his help loan. The student father even had a bit of he had started to do online stuff. So he found out this bursary at the University of Nairobi with Professor Godfrey Morioki. I went to Professor Godfrey and got the bursary. And then I went to help and met this really, really good loan officer, Mrs. Micheka. I met her recently and was really happy. She's now retired. So when I told her that I was a student mother, she gave me full loan and full bursary. I didn't even know that HELP had that facility, that any student mother should go to HELP and get a full loan and a full bursary. And so with the little that we had, we could manage with the house girl. Luckily, the baby was also a good baby. Kana kula tu matoke hivyo, kana kunywa maziwa, kana grow haraka. So the baby also just grew quickly. But that first year was a big struggle of me and the baby and the house girl. When I took the baby home, and I want to thank my mother for that vision, because my mother then allowed to take the baby home. And then the house girl would also go home. In fact, that particular house girl went away. So we had to hire a new house girl. We had nicknamed her Tauna. So we said that the house girl wetu amekuwa Tauna. When now we are moving from Marish to Udhaya akakataa. So Tauna akadisappear. So we were left now to look for another house girl. But once I got the baby home, I had to do special exams because now I didn't do the exam the time when I got the baby. Luckily, there was a strike. It was the Karura strike for the university when they went with Professor Wangari Maathai. So there was like a 3 months hapo za kulea mtoto because the strike was on. And then when I came back, I had to do exams. And it used to be a bit sad because people would think it is supplementary. They think I failed. And you know, now it's a long story telling people what, you know, I didn't fail, I just got a baby. I just let myself, you know, if you think I failed the exam, ni sawa tu, and just grew a hard skin. Good classmates. A classmate of mine brought me a sweater. Another one bought me milk. Another one bought me lunch. You know, we were all just struggling there, but they would just give me the little they had. I'm a Catholic, so joined the Parklands Catholic Society. The one we used to go to mass at St. Paul's, and Father Wamugonda, who was then the chaplain, would come and minister to us. And I just really loved that. And then we'd do the 14 Falls, the Kijabe Hills, the hiking, Gong Hills. So after now, sometime it was just normal for one to be a student mother, but it can be rough. And I have seen a friend of mine who disappeared from law school at the same time as myself. She came to find me when I was already a director at Ciku, but she has now since also finished her law school and is now a practicing lawyer. So student motherhood is not a curse. It shouldn't happen. Mambo ni kuchill. If I had to repeat my life, I would really honestly urge people to just chill and wait until they are married. I was also lucky to marry the student father. It doesn't happen that way all the time. So as guys later got married. But I would really just want to say that it shouldn't happen, but if it happens, there are ways of taking care of it, and that baby should not make anybody not get their degree. You should then get both degrees. You get the degree of motherhood and you get the degree of your studies. Thank you.
Okay, that is very wonderful, Priscilla. Honorable Nyokabi, at least you got to get your degree and moved on to the field career. So could you give us how you started out in the career field?
We used to have a Chris Kubasu show a long time ago, and we had a small television, which my father had bought. My father didn't believe that people should have televisions in their homes. So for a long time when we lived in Marish, we used to go and watch TV at our neighbors. Our neighbor is called Mama Cynthia. So now every time I go to Marish, she reminds me. So we used to watch TV at Mama Cynthia. But then in 96, I think 96 thereabout, or 92 World Cup, my father also got the World Cup bag. So I abandoned that principle of not buying a TV. Plus that Great Wall, I think, was on offer. So he bought a small Great Wall. So when we went to there, the Great Wall was there, but it now didn't have a battery. Because at that time, we didn't have electricity at home. We were using paraffin. So when I became the clerk, the elections clerk, one of the things I bought, yani a major investment, mpaka tulienda Nyeri na my brother, tukabebana na betri mpaka Ushago. Sasa kale ka TV kakawaka. Tukaweka hiyo betri, ilikuwa inakaa 3 weeks unaenda kucharge. Luckily kuna shop ya kucharge huko Ushago. Sasa tulikuwa 3 weeks tunaweka charge, tunaona. So in that television now, there was a Chris Kubasu show, a feeder show, Federation of Women Lawyers. I remember seeing Joaquin Dongo, Supreme Court judge, Judy Dogori, Jane Getau was then, I think, the CEO, and there was only one man who was participating in the Women Lawyers show, Professor Gidu Muigai. So now, I mean, he was like a honorary woman, and I was really impressed. So I thought to myself, when I'm in the university, I want to find Professor and I want to work with him. So I came to the university. In the Catholic Society, I told you, my friend from Udaya, Anne Asuga, who now works for the judiciary. She's now the chief registrar's office. I think she's one of the registrars of the courts. Anne Asuga was in second year. Professor Gibbon didn't teach first years. He used to teach second years. So Professor Anne told me where Professor's office was. So I went to try and see Professor. The clerks, the secretaries, nobody would allow me. Then I learned Professor works late. So now one day I went to see him after hours. So I didn't find the secretary, I didn't find the clerks, I didn't find anyone to stop me. So I went and I told Professor that I want to work with him. And he told me, why don't you come tomorrow and see me at the university? And I did exactly that. And I started to work with Professor Gidu when I was a student at the university. And he allowed me to go to the farm and to now learn how to draft pleadings. For lawyers, drafting is a big thing. The way you hear, we are paid per folio. We are paid per page of writing. If you tell someone yet, I want to leave my property to my wife, you can just think that that is a statement. That is a 38-page document. Which wife, which property, when, how, you know, all that. So Professor now allowed me to go to the farm and to learn all that when I was still a student. So I worked with him all of the breaks of the university. I went to the law firm. So when I finished the university, then I went to be a pupil at Mohammed and Muigai Law Firm. And I think that that really, really helped my career. Because when I finished pupillage in 2003, Professor Gidu had been chairman of ICJ. And he said that I was more human rights inclined, that a lot of my arguments, I was moralizing the law, and that I should then consider a career in human rights. And so he was the chairman of ICJ. And then when he retired, his partner, Hon Nyokabi, became the chairman of ICJ. So he told me, go and tell Mohammed to take you to ICJ to be an intern at ICJ Kenya. And I applied for internship at ICJ Kenya. But when I went for the interview, because I had done so much work with Professor Gidu, even on human rights, we had had a Mrs. Sawe case on death penalty, and I had researched a lot for him on death penalty. He used to be the lawyer for Nation and Standard. So, and later on, even I also became a media lawyer. So then I used to do a lot of those things. By the time I went for the interview, they said I'm beyond an intern. So they actually gave me a job as an assistant program officer at ICJ Kenya in 2004, February. So ICJ Kenya was in Kileleshwa. So I was still living huko Marish. I went back to Marish after finishing the university. Na Marish tu ni huko tu, ukistretch mkono kila nini ni duka, neighbor ni duka, everything is a duka. So now it was a bit of a distance for me. The KBS was no longer working. So it was a bit of a struggle to get from Marish to Kileleshwa. So I got a friend of mine to give me a place to live in Kileleshwa, and that's how I moved to Kileleshwa. But also around the same time, there was a program by a lady we call Ruth Thomas. Professor Thomas had come to the University of Nairobi to teach, Donald Thomas, and Ruth was the Library of Congress representative. So there's like a period for lawyers we call holding over. After pupillage, na hujaadmitiwa kwa the bar, kanaitangwa holding over. It's like a bit of like a jobless period there to, una hang. So that hanging period, I went to work with Ruth Thomas at the Kenya Indexing Project. She was classifying legal articles. I went to be one of the editors for the legal articles. And we used to be paid $1 per article. Yani, that job is like a muindi. You are paid for production. Me sikuwa na lala. Niki edit, edit. All of us were not sleeping, editing. Because every article is $1. Every article is $1. So she put us on an American program of payment. So I edited until one time our priest was selling his car. So my brother bid for that car. Then I borrowed some money from Ruth Thomas and bought the car. Then in February 2004, I now got the job at ICJ. I tried to do both. So I dropped the indexing job and now just concentrated on ICJ. And then after that, now learned the job at ICJ. Just became really, really good at learning, going for lectures, which I had started when I was in the university. When professors are speaking, nasikiza hata naandika notes, nikiona kwa TV, naandika, nasikiza. And then, huko marish sheng ni mingi. And for us lawyers, articulation is everything. So I started to just train myself how to be articulate and how to be eloquent and how to bring out my ideas properly. All those things I just taught myself. And then at ICJ, I was really, really hardworking. Just the way I was working hard kwa Ruth Thomas, ile ya editing, ile ya kukosa kulala. Nikaendelea tu na kukosa kulala even at ICJ, and then just rose through the ranks. But also had very good supervisors all along. Our CEO then, Philip Kichana, was very, very good. He used to tell us, I want to see you flying away. Not in my direction. I want to also read your articles in the newspaper. He really used to inspire us to work hard and to fly away. And I would say that he was also a big contributor to our flying higher and higher. Thanks.
That is wonderful. It shows that you really have to work for what you really want. And as you climbed your career ladder, you were later selected and regarded as top 40 under 40 women who are excelling in their careers in Kenya. How did that feel for you?
Thanks a lot. That was a really, really good moment. So now, after joining ICJ in 2004, I found ICJ was running a campaign on access to information, or freedom of information, that the information government has was paid for by taxpayers' money. So that information should be available to the public. And I quickly connected with the campaign. You remember I told you the story of paraffin. Mm-hmm. So later on, when our MP then, Mwai Kibaki, became the president of Kenya, we started to get a little bit more electricity at Kuminodai, and so our home later got electricity. But even before that, in 2003, 2004, just when I got the job, I bought a solar system for my family at home. And I just was shocked at how much cheaper solar is compared to paraffin. I was just so sad that poor people have to pay so much, to just get lighting, when there are many more better, cleaner systems. In fact, that's around the same time we started to cook with gas as opposed to paraffin and na makaa na kuni. But then it is much cheaper to use other fuels, But we don't have the information. We didn't have the information on solar, so we ended up using paraffin. Tulikumbaka na ile taya nini, ile ya korogoi. Ile mkikuwa na mazishi kwa village, watu wanakuja wanaomba my dad was such an expert of that korogoi taa. You feel so sad, my God. We should have bought solar a long time ago because my parents were junior civil servants, but surely if they had information, they would have afforded. And Uko Marish, where I grew up, I know so many of friends of mine, HIV had just come in at the time. And I didn't even know that government was giving free ARVs. Marish is like 20 bob from Tao. And people are just dying. They don't have any information on ARVs, didn't have information on TB. I mean, and it felt so sad. Okay, soja, nani, tumabeshte wote tu wa mtaani. Ukienda kila time, sijui nani alipass. Nani alidai, hivyo. Again, a problem of information. And then I could also see it in the bursary program of HELP. Huko mtaani, me, all the time I grew up, even in high school, I never heard of higher education loans board. And there is a government program for people to get loans to study and pay back the loans when they finish the university. So for me, access to information became personal because I had seen how much lack of information can punish people. I became such an ambassador. By the way, now when I went to Parliament is when I passed that law on access to information. Now it is a law in Kenya that we really need to get information from government for free. So now that campaign, I went to Oxford, I studied again on media law and access to information. I came back to Kenya, I did the campaign, followed members of parliament, Nani. So that is how I won the top 40 under 40 award. It was because of access to information.
Wow, that is very beautiful. And actually, after winning a top 40 under 40 award, a year later, you decided to get into politics. Was that like a plan for you to get into politics?
That's also quite a bit of a story. So 2009, I left ICJ. Our CEO then, George Kegoro, was appointed to be secretary at the Waki Commission after post-election violence. The board appointed me as acting director. So at that time now I had become a leader. Then George came back. And now my leadership skills had really been noticed by the board. At Kituo cha Sheria, the then director, Ikuru Aukot, was going on to the committee of experts as the secretary. So they were going to recruit a director. And some of the board members at ICJ were the board members at Kituo cha Sheria. They are all legal organizations. So that is how I got recruited to Kituo cha Sheria as a ED, as the executive director. And so the law that we do in human rights is law as it should be, not the law as it is. We fight for better laws that address human concerns, that address the problems of the people. Like just today, I was with Gladys Wanga, who is moving a law on national health facilities. Just what is the law? How do you make sure that the money for hospitals goes to hospitals so that the hospitals can better give the right to healthcare? And so we write the law in human rights. You do the law as it should be to support poverty, to support human rights, and you have law in a soul, law with a soul, not a soulless law. Law meant to give the country and to move the country forward. And I was also happy in my master's to study law and development. So it is law to move to development. But now at Kituo cha Sheria, you do it even better because you do it for the poor. In fact, that is even how you learn how to talk Kiswahili, because I have now, not to just say right to health, but tell the mother in Korogosho, hizo mambo zote zinamhusu aje. You know, hiyo katiba mnasema sema huko juu, huko kwenye, huko ugwabini. Mimi hapa Korogosho inanihusu nini? Na huyo mama umuelezee mpaka aone vile yeye na katiba wanashikana. Sasa you have to learn Kiswahili. So I went to Kituo and really enjoyed that part. So now at Kituo, we were doing evictions. We were supporting all our clients against eviction, and it used to be a really, really rough job. We are the ones who started implementing the right to housing. We stopped the construction of Muturwa Estate because our clients would have nowhere to go. We used to stop evictions. We used to do labor cases and land cases and just make sure hata kama mtu akona 0.1 by 0.1 apewe title yake, akaina title. So that's also what we took to Nyeri with the president. Even if people are living in colonial villages and wherever, just give them their title, their land title. So now we had this case of Dandora dump site. There are international standards that you should not have a dump site where people are living because of chronic diseases and many other problems that causes them. Tukijaribu kufanya kesi ya kuhamisha dump site, watu wa Dandora wanatuambia sisi tutakufa. Dump site itatuua, lakini kutoa dump site itatuua because now we know our lives now are based on the dump site. And it was a very, very sad case. And I tell them, no, mama, we will go to court. And then they just look at me like, alafu koti inatusaidiaje? Hai, alafu nini alada, tutaenda kotini, tupate court order, alafu tukishapata court order, sijui tuende wapi, mama anaona hiyo, mimi hiyo miaka, sita ndadai, nikipoja. Hata watu eviction, ikakuwa the same story. When you get an eviction order, an anti-eviction order, it does not allow your clients to live on the land. It just says they should not be evicted, but it doesn't give them title to the land. Sasa watu wanakuangalia zile za, unaambia watu wako na right to water, na hawana water. They just think, I mean, are you a mad woman or what? So we held this conference that it is not just about the law, it is resources. You have to go to where resources are. You have to be able to give resources for water, resources for healthcare, resources for education. The only place where those resources are is in Parliament, because that's where we make decisions on money for the country. So that was like for me in 2010, the Katiba, I was a yes proponent. So the Katiba ilikuwa ina protect youth and women in a big way. So that by 2012 now, with my clients looking at me like, na sasa hiyo kotoda, madam, inanisaidiaje kotoda mimi? Hey, I decided there's no other way. I just have to go to where resources are. So that is how I resigned my job and then went to Nyeri. And then I had my friends, we compared buying in Nairobi. I had considered buying in Marish. Lakini nikaona jamani hata sheng nishasahau, jamani hata sijui uwi duka isha change. Mimi nikakimbia mbio Nyeri huko. I used to know Ciku. Nikaenda nikasafisha mwana mwega, you know, guo adoito moriaga, adoito dayo. Nikaenda nikafanya campaigns here, so I was elected in Nyeri.
That is quite interesting, Honorable Nyokabi. So you had some uncompleted projects before you left Parliament. Are you planning to go on with them?
When I went to Parliament now, because of being a human rights person and a civil society person, and I really just loved where I had come from, because also pia Parliament kuna tu mchezo tu kiasi. I found Parliament is a bit like high school. There are those, I don't know, from Shag schools, those from Nairobi schools, or those rich ones, the poor ones, the barons, you know, mahaslas, you know, there are all those divisions in Parliament. It's a bit like first day of school. So you find your network, you find your league and your clique, and you stay with your clique, and then you start to do the right thing. So me, first of all, access to information was really, really on top of my mind. And then now, my mother had brought me up on women groups, chama. They used to kuchanga. We even used to know our treasurer. Juu sisi sasa ukifukuzwa seko ilikuwa madhetu wanakimbia kwa treasurer. Ukiona huyo treasurer kina madhe alikuwa anaitwa Mama Shiro. Ukiona tu madhe amekimbia kwa Mama Shiro utarudi shule hiyo siku. Mama Shiro used to just, I don't know, they had that Katebu banking. So we just, you come home, mom just quick, Mama Shiro, quick, borrow money, quick, back to school. And I really, really was happy. They had even built themselves water tanks. Because us guys, when we first moved to Shag, we used to fetch water in another kariba there. Hata kalikuwa na skill ya kuset hizo nini magoto, so that the water comes out. There's another lady we still call engineer of water. She's the only one, her and my shushu are the only ones who knew how to set the magotos for the water to come out. But kina my mom, with that group of theirs, they worked so hard, they built themselves the water tanks. Then they worked so hard and just, you know, taking their children to school. Me, my brother and my sister are like a ladder. Mimi niko form 4, bro ako form 2, sister ako form 1. Tulikuwa si wote watatu tuko pamoja tunasoma. So mother alikuwa na struggle sana. So hiyo idea ya chama stayed with me for a long time. And so when I went to Parliament, I really wanted to move for the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. A fund to assist women groups, a fund to assist youth groups, and a fund to assist groups of persons with disability. And I really wanted us to do things that really, really matter to people. I had seen the development of brick and mortar, but also the development of people, because it's not just brick and mortar. It is also how do people develop as the brick and mortar projects are developing. So we convinced Parliament around it and got that going. So those, and I was also in budget committee. So I started projects around education, which was, I was already a school board member in Karima Boys, and I now chair the school board at Gatuge Girls. So I really knew, and me myself, I am a product of education. I mean, so I was really, really keen on education, bursaries, the schools, construction, more dormitories, more administration blocks, and that thing. Water, you remember that engineer of water? I really used to feel sad. Aki kama kwetu kamlima kamesimama hivi. So mtu alikuwa anapandisha mtungi kwa hiyo mlima imesimama. Na uchote maji za home, uchote maji za ng'ombe. Nakwambia mtu alikuwa anachota maji kutoka kaa 7 mpaka kaa 11 bado tu unachota maji za home. That used to really make me sad. So again, many water projects for me, because really mtungi lazima tutupe. And you know, even places like Nyeri, women are still fetching water. So then a lot of water projects. And then I also was now big on the women groups, the chamas, just funding the chamas to have money for their projects, for their education, for the children, for their businesses, the traders and all that. So yeah, I've gone back to some of them. And I used to make sure that the project I start, we complete. Like the dorms, people are already in sleeping. Gatarawa Girls, we had opened. Karima Boys, we had opened. Gatuge Girls, we had finished. Most of my projects were complete. But for the water, we had a very, very good dam, Jogwine Kafati Getero. And we also had Gemaine Kifoya, the one that you were asking me about completion. So I have gone back to the Ministry of Water. I went back to visit Mheshimiwa Kanini not long ago, and the MCA really, really begged me to come back, because now the dam is there. just make sure that the water is pumped to the homes. And you know, Nyeri is gravity. Once you have the dam, the water can just go down slopes. So imagine I move to downstream. So I'm back to taking care of those projects, and I'm going to follow them and just make sure they are completed. Although I also intend to tell them, the only way for me to complete this project ni mnirudishe kwa kiti. Sasa nitamalizaje nikiwa mraia? Mnirudishe ndio nimalize.
So that is wonderful about the project. So you did so much and you started so many projects, but in the next elections in 2017, you were not elected back. Were you disappointed by that?
Oh yeah, I was disappointed a lot, especially when I lost the nomination. Because you know, we are a Jubilee zone, and so once you lose the Jubilee ticket, it gets quite rough for you to vie as an independent. But I still went on and vied as an independent. Yeah, and I thought I had done a lot of projects, and I thought I touched a lot of people. But there's too much going on in our electoral system, so I can't and I couldn't be angry with the people. I had then gotten a small boy, also like a small boy called Raziel. So he was just about 1 year old, and it was very, very painful during the campaigns. In fact, he had become like a son of the house help, and our house help was really good. We had also moved to Nyeri. So when I lost the election, the election was on August 8th, and 10th was my birthday. So my friends came around for the birthday and just spoke to me about the loss and you know, just about picking up the pieces. Luckily, I was a lawyer, so you know, just kind of picking up. I had even dropped out of LSK, so one of my friends helped me to get back onto LSK. She helped me with the forms. She became my own lawyer. So I got back onto LSK. And then a friend of mine, Kajuju, we lost together. So we formed a therapy group there for those of us who lost, and the friends of ours who won. They really started to lobby for us to get jobs with the government. And when I also lost, so after that going down a bit, one time a friend of mine who's a judge nominee took me to our bishop in Nyeri, and Bishop read me a verse about flagrants, that you must let your flagrants out there. In fact, I was telling Bishop the other day how much that verse helped me. So every time I just remembered my flagrants is still with me. Whether I lose or not, the flagrants is not lost. And then I kept that on my mind, and I said, and the bishop told me, Priscilla, take your flagrants with you and don't ever let anybody put you down. So we packed our bags and came back to Nairobi with the baby and with the house help and with my other daughter, Valentine. And the flagrants story really stayed with me. And this friend of mine who took me to the bishop started to help me to fill application letters. Mpaka CV nishasaweka kuandika, CV hata ili lost. Bunge can make you very lazy. So now I had to rewrite my CV. You know, I got a friend who really helped me to do a good CV. And then we got together and established an NGO, me and Kajuju. We established an NGO called Boresha Maisha. Then we started to do some work on health. The health referral facilities we are doing now, we started that time, and I started to do some work on coffee. And then, you know, you have to cut your budget. You have to just, you know, live according to your means. You have to release your staff. So because now you can no longer afford to keep the staff. But, you know, he's a God of many times. You just pick yourself up together and you start to apply. Because again, and you become harassed, even you can't get a job. Because now when you go to the interview, you look bad and you are competing. So ikabidi collect haraka because if you look sorry woye you can't even get a job. So we tukajipa nguvu. Mimi na Kajuju hivyo tunakula salad nini hivyo tu mdogo. And then in a short while we got jobs and
okay, wonderful. So finally you're able to get over the loss and you are nominated to be the commissioner for the National Gender and Equality Commission. So how was that for you, and what role do you play in the National Gender and Equality Commission?
Well, the National Gender and Equality Commission was one of my own passions because I really love women's rights. I've told you about the story of my mother and the chairman. Yeah. And I've just loved women's rights all along. Even when I was at ICJ, I still used to do some bit of women's rights. And when I was at Ciku, I still used to do quite a lot of women's rights. The 2/3 gender campaign, I did it in Parliament as well. And have just been a front person on women's rights. Did a lot of international traveling on women's rights and women human rights defenders. and just Maputo Protocol, the protocol in Africa by our heads of states and governments on the rights of women, the UN Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, we call it the CEDAW, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the equality of men and women, and I was one of the trainers on the women gains in the new constitution. And so when I was looking for a job, the Gender Commission was for me a natural place to go to, from where I could then continue on my work with women rights, with the rights of girls and with equality, persons with disability, the youth, the children, the elderly, and the minorities, and just making sure that their rights are fulfilled. And now I'm a lawyer, so then I can use legal tools. And like now, we are working on a complaints mechanism, having people bring their complaints on human rights and discrimination and harassment, including sexual harassment. We are working on a complaints mechanism, and I had done that for the media. I was the chairperson of the Media Complaints Commission task force, and later on became a complaints commissioner for the Media Council. So I want to do that in the Gender Commission, and we have already started the work around that. So it was really for me a natural place to work. I had actually applied for chairperson, and I hoped to get chairperson, but then they had this 15-year rule for practice, and I was then a 14-year lawyer, so I missed it by a year. But I'm happy to serve as a commissioner, and it's a much more relaxing job than politics. And I also have had a chance now to bring up my boy, because I don't have to travel as much to Nyeri. So it just works out well, and I'm just in the circle too. And I still got back the government vehicle. I lost the GK when I was removed from parliament, but I got the GK back. So I'm happy to serve. I'm now following actively the BBI and what constitutional reforms we can have for women. We are hoping to get the full 2/3 implemented, and we are hoping to get the youth issues addressed by the constitution, and the children issues and the persons with disability issues. So I'm following that process, and I'm one of the team that was doing the drafting for the BBI. So I'm at a good place now.
Oh, that is very wonderful. Your life has really showcased, how you begin and how you can go through hardships and still be able to overcome them and still make it and be a great figure in the society. So what are the 3 principles that you live by?
One of the ones I like most is live and let live. Just wacha tu watu. We used to have another guy huko Marish, anaitwa Hassan. Story yake ilikuwa kila nyani na starehe yake. So even at our family, we're always on that. Kila nyani na starehe yake. You may not understand the starehe of that nyani, wewe wachana na yeye. So live and let live. That's been one of my good mottos, and so you are easy. You just live and let live. The other one is no complaints, that you don't complain. You find solutions, you don't complain. Everywhere where there's a problem, just find a solution. Don't just be a complainer and don't complain too much about life. Just be easy. We used to play cards huko Marish, and so mdogo mdogo, easy, that sort of thing. And a lot of people in my family are like that, happy and smiling. Mm-hmm. The people who remember me in high school just remember laughter. The people who remember me in the university, we had the wing for women when it was Queen's Bench. Queen's Bench is the court in the UK. So now here, the men nicknamed the hostels for women as Queen's Bench, QB. Your QB mimi nilikuwa tunacheka. Nikiwa box nilikuwa tunacheka. I've just been happy. And then the other one is hard work. You just have to really work hard. Whatever opportunity you get, you have to give your best, be reliable, and just work hard, even when you think you're working hard. And I mentor students in the university and show them what our head teacher, you remember that yoga I told you, and Shadi, they showed me that the brain is elastic. The brain is elastic. Even when you think you have stretch it some more. So I just keep stretching and just never stop stretching and never stop working hard and reaching out for the things that you care about.
Oh, that's very wonderful. Thank you very much. So as we wind up, so far where you have reached with your career and a person as yourself, do you feel that you've been able to fulfill and do what you've always really wanted to do in this world?
Not really, especially since I don't feel very old. So I just feel like I'm just started right away. One of the things I have been happy about, it took a long time. Me and my husband have been boyfriend and girlfriend for years. we didn't get married until, until much later in life. And so I have loved that part of life as well. I have loved to have a partner and to have a friend, and he's also very, very funny, so we are forever laughing. He's got a really good sense of humor, and I have loved that, I just can, get somebody else to pay the fees and get somebody else to help with life. I think that has been a good thing, and I would want to encourage that for everyone, that family and marriage is a good thing, but you marry the right partner, and no violence and no harassment in the family. So I'm happy, and I'm hoping that that part of our life unfolds some more. Maybe that we get to do a wedding sometime, because I'm Catholic and he's Anglican, and maybe that will be a good thing. So I'm hoping that that part of life unfolds. Our son is 4 years old now. Valentine is in the university, so just looking forward to how the children grow, the 4-year-old especially, who has a longer life to go. And I'm also hoping that 2022, because I'm preparing to go back to the election, and just kind of hoping with the transitions in the country, see how the BBI goes. I'm playing an role in that BBI process, and then thereafter consider going back to the election. I'm looking at different seats, but my heart seems to be going to Senate. So hoping that I can get on a senatorial campaign, but I'm still reflecting, and in politics, you don't expose your hand too early, utapata viboko mapema. So, I'm also looking at MP, I'm looking at women rep, and just kind of seeing what position would be good. So I'm hoping that that part of life unfolds. I'm also hoping my journey in law continues, and I want to document the cases I've done. The prisoners case, the case that allowed the prisoners to vote in the referendum, was a Priscilla Nyokabi case, actually. Wow. And I had the Mudurwa case I told you about, the right to housing. And I had a death penalty case with Mrs. Sawe. And I did another case on detaining people in hospital, because it is wrong. The state should not detain people for not being able to pay hospital fees, because when you don't pay land rates, the state does not arrest you. The state should not arrest people who are sick and keep them in hospital as prison. So we've done quite a number of cases that I want to put together. And now I'm on bills. I already have the access to information. We have the government affirmative action fund. We are now on the health laws. We did the coffee laws. I'm planning to support the tea laws, and just the story of law. I'm hoping that story of law unfolds even up to international level. If we get the changes that we are looking for in BBI, there will be a lot of good reforms there in constitutional law. So I'm also hoping my story of law develops and how the law helps our society to move forward. And then I'm just hoping to enjoy life, Netflix, nini hizo, movie, kidogo, movivi, hapa na pale, COVID ikiisha, I'm a bit of a reggae fan pia, Bob Marley and all the others. And maybe go back a bit to Marish, go to Nyeri huko. I go back to Adwaito mukirioho wega, mukejidikane Priscilla Nyokabi, munipatie kura. I still have another full life. And I'm a bit on the weight loss also. No carbs and all that, trying to cut some weight. So also hoping to see how that goes. I haven't been too successful, but napambana tu na hali yangu hapo. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyokabi. Our time is up now. It was a pleasure having you. It was great to really been able to get a lot from your life and everything you've gone through. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you everyone else who's joined us today. We hope that you've really gained a lot from Honorable Nyokabi. And I wish you all the best as you continue your life endeavors and as you continue to develop yourself in career-wise, personal, in business and personally, and also as you improve your journey towards money. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night. Bye.